Welcome to part 3 of our series on cruising for seniors. This is Scott Law, the world's oldest vlogger, reminiscing on our recent cruise on Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas. In this series, I'm sharing our experience as senior travelers to give you something to think about as you consider a cruise and as you plan one if you decide you want to go. Remember, every cruise line and every ship will be different, but there are some commonalities that I hope this series will help you with. In case you missed parts 1 or 2, there is a link in the description below and hopefully in the upper right corner of the screen to take you to the playlist. Where have I been for the past several weeks? As you remember, part of this series has been about dealing with my wife's mobility issues, including us renting a mobility scooter. Sadly, without wheels, she could not even get from our cabin to the other parts of the ship without a lot of time and pain. When we got home, my wife went to the doctor who had replaced her knees a few years ago and found out that the problem was actually with her femur to hip connection, and it was bone on bone. So a little less than a month ago, she went in to get a new hip joint, and we've been convalescing ever since. The good news is that it appears to be helping, and we're hoping that we'll be able to go travel again, and much more comfortably next time. Maybe a cruise to Greece? Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite reasons for cruising. As I was thinking about this episode of Cruising for Seniors, I was thinking about my favorite reasons to go on a cruise. I decided to take a look at what are some of the many reasons people go on cruises. I found lists ranging from 5 best reasons to, believe it or not, 68 best reasons to cruise. I'll do you a big favor and not read any of those lists to you. For me, it comes down to probably 3 main things. Number 1, travel. A chance to see new places or revisit old ones. Fortunately for both my wife and me, we both love to travel. B, convenience. So convenient. Once you're on the ship, you unpack in your new home away from home and sit back and relax. What more could a senior ask for? Next, the food. After we've decided on the cruise and start planning, I really look forward to the food. How important is the food to me? When I look at a cruise line review, if the quality of the dining is not getting a 4 or 5 stars, I'm looking somewhere else. Oh, by the way, how many of you noticed a little curveball I threw at you when I listed the 3 reasons? If you caught it, just for fun, leave a comment telling me what it was. So, according to the one article, there must be at least 65 other reasons to go on a cruise, and I honestly enjoy many of them, but those are probably my top 3. Let's talk about our food experience on Oasis of the Seas. To be totally honest, I am somewhat disappointed in the photos and video that I got of the food on this cruise. But that was my fault, as I was busy helping my wife and spending time with our daughter and her family. I promise that if I ever get another chance to go on a cruise, I'll do a much better job. There are multiple options for every meal, and all you want to eat is available on your cruise, and you paid for it as part of your fare. However, most cruise ships also have a nice variety of specialty dining for an additional charge if you want to upgrade your options a little. I mentioned in a previous video that my wife and I got a free specialty meal as part of the enticements to book through our travel agent. We used that certificate to eat at the Italian restaurant Giovanni's. Our dinner was excellent in every way, both the food and the service. However, had we had to pay for it, I might have been pretty disappointed, because as far as I was concerned, it was very little, if any, better than what we got nightly in the main dining room. And we had more choices in the main dining room. However, we may have felt differently at a different venue. This is probably as good a place as any to mention that other than water and lemonade, there are no free drinks on most cruises. The exception is that there are usually some juice choices and some coffee and tea at breakfast. Neither my wife nor I drink alcohol, but she loves her Diet Coke and I love my Diet Pepsi. Since this ship did not have Pepsi available, I brought a few bottles on board with me. She did buy some on the cruise, but since she didn't have more than about one a day, we didn't get the drink package, and that saved us $30 or $40. We and most of the other passengers had our breakfast in the Windjammer buffet, which, by the way, seems to be what the buffet is called on all of the Royal Caribbean ships. For very good reason, they are really big on sanitizing and hand washing. There are crew members at each entrance to help you remember to wash up as you enter. I'll never forget the smiling, friendly greeter at one station constantly repeating, "No washy washy, no yummy yummy." About the only video I got of the buffet was at breakfast time, but it was available for all 3 meals, and we did use it for lunch and casual snacks a few times, and even our evening meal once after a day off the ship. There were a few times also when my wife was tired or in pain, and I would go and get her a plate and take it to the cabin so she could enjoy it there. Of course, room service is also available, but we never used it. There is definitely a very wide choice of food available at the buffet. Whether you're eating healthy or throwing your diet out the window for the cruise like I did, the serving and eating area seems to go on forever, though it is loosely divided into a few areas and the choices are similar, if not exactly the same, in each area. Unlike our previous cruise on Princess Lines, there was never a time when there wasn't available seating in the dining area. There were times when we had to look around a little, but we always found a space fairly quickly. In addition, they did have a few tables set aside specifically for the handicapped, though they were sometimes fully occupied also. I felt that they did an excellent job of keeping both the serving areas and the dining area very clean, attractive, and inviting. And both the options and the quality was as good or better as any buffet I've ever been to. As I hinted before, the food and the service were excellent in the main dining room. We had most of our dinners there and decided to try it for breakfast one morning. For our dinner meals, we opted for the early dining, though I'm certain that either time is equally excellent. We did have one issue on scheduling. As our family consisted of 3 groups on 3 different reservations, we each contacted our travel agencies and the cruise line and thought we had arranged for our dinner meal in the main dining room to be all grouped at the same table. When we showed up for our first night's dinner, it didn't turn that way at all. My wife and I were in one place, our daughter and her husband and 3 boys at another, and our granddaughter and her husband at yet another. Not even near each other. However, the dining staff worked with us, and even though it was slightly inconvenient for them, the remainder of the cruise, we were all together. We loved our waitstaff. They were very sincere in trying to make our cruise a wonderful experience. Some dining options changed each night. In the top part of the menu, choices changed daily. And then under what they termed as classics were the items that remained the same each night. At the bottom are items you could order for an extra charge. Look closely and you'll see that the lobster was an extra charge item at the bottom, but on Friday night, lobster was one of those regular included menu items at no additional charge. The meals were beautiful, delicious, and filling, but just in case you were extra hungry, you could order whatever you wanted. The only trouble was, I never had room for more than one of the options at once. On the first night for our appetizers, my wife ordered the shrimp cocktail, and I ordered the crab cake. After tasting the crab cake, it was so delicious that I ordered a second so she could have some without stealing part of mine. We shared that second one with smiles on our faces. The desserts were so attractive you almost didn't want to eat them. But after getting a photo, I was able to force myself so that it didn't go to waste. There were other places to eat without additional charge, including the Mexican dining of El Loco Fresh, which was fine for a quick snack or if you were in the mood for Mexican. But I wouldn't put it down as a good reason to go on the cruise. Decent, but not great, pizza was available at Sorrento's, right in the middle of the promenade, for lunch, dinner, and even late night snacks. And while you're on the promenade, there is also the Cafe Promenade. Cafe Promenade is open 24 hours with tasty breakfast treats, sandwiches, pastries, and so on as the menu changes throughout the day. If you find yourself hungry in Central Park, there is the Park Cafe, where they serve enticing deli-style food from breakfast through afternoon for a late lunch. For tasty snacks on the boardwalk, there's the Dog House, with basic hot dogs to brats and sausages for lunch and even supper as late as 7 in the evening. I sampled them a couple times and enjoyed my visits. There may have been another place or two for the included dining that I missed. On our cruise, we made 2 stops at cruise line-owned islands, where there was also plenty of free food available, which I'll show you in a future episode as we get off the ship. Typically, however, unless you are visiting a cruise line-owned shore location, you can expect to get your own meals on the local economy at your own expense, or return to the ship to eat. Whatever ship or cruise line you're looking at, be sure to check out their food choices from healthy to decadent. Which reminds me, a cruise just wouldn't be right for me if it didn't have soft ice cream or frozen yogurt cones readily available whenever the mood hit me. Oasis of the Seas has 2 soft ice cream cone dispensers on deck 15, close to the pools and water slides. Unfortunately, no frozen yogurt, which I really prefer. Most of the time only one was open, but there were times when both were. I consider myself a soft ice cream / frozen yogurt connoisseur. Years ago, when I was traveling the country every week on business, I could tell you which airports had the best soft ice cream and which ones to avoid. I would rate Oasis of the Seas at about a 3 to 3.5, which isn't bad at all. Of course, the lines to get a cone varied from quite a few minutes to just walk up and get one. They had vanilla, chocolate, or a twist. And of course, they were always served with a smile. Especially for the main dining room and the Windjammer buffet, Royal Caribbean gets high marks from me for their food. even though this was not a relaxing cruise for me, as I was constantly on the run taking video all over the ship and trying not to ignore my wife and also visiting with family. I still managed to gain a few pounds with all that great food. That pretty much does it for the dining on Oasis of the Seas. I sure hope this video gives you some information that will help you decide if you want to go on a cruise, and also helps you plan for one if you do decide to. There's still plenty to talk about with activities and entertainment both on and off the ship, and about how seniors do on the land ports. Spoiler alert, the off-ship experiences may be the most challenging consideration for your cruise plans. Also, I still need to give you the final verdict on our experience with the mobility scooter and the company we rented it from. And I've got some potentially embarrassing video footage that I'm still trying to decide if I should share with you or not. For now, this is Scott Law, the world's oldest vlogger, hoping to see you again soon for more adventures of cruising seniors. And of course, until then, keep on keeping on.